This week on Supercars Talk, Shane Van Gisbergen is your 2022 V8 Supercars champion. The big news that came out over the weekend is that Peter Adderton has put in his order for one 888 Gen 3 Camaro. Now, coupled with the fact that 888 aren't going to do Super 2 racing next year, can we put 2 and 2 together and get 76? He did say he had a team in mind to run the car, etc. Could this be the one? Time will tell, but let's not get too carried away because he does need a license to race the car first, but I'm sure the purchase of the car is and if he gets the license, he has to go through with the purchase of the car. If he doesn't get the license, I'm sure he wouldn't be purchasing the car in that case. Grant McPherson is out of WAU this week. He will be starting at the Groves next week. No gardening leave on this transfer. James Golding and Macaulay Jones had some new liveries over the weekend. The Pertaminia Jones one and a fancy kind of beachside subway livery for James Golding. That car looked really good. The Jones one. Randall had some updates to his car, but it was pretty much just Caltex edge, Castrol edge down the side, I think it was, rather than the normal Castrol, not Caltex. Declan Fraser has said that he is out of the running for the final vacant seat for next year, which is that MSR seat. It's questionable whether he was ever in the running for that one, but unless something strange like Declan ending up at the vacant premier seat that is James Golding's seat to take. Unless Decker kind of ends up there and then Golding is available, I think, I don't know, but I think that the MSR seat is now between Cameron Hill and Jaden Ojeda. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out why that is. Now, for the racing over the weekend, first things first, the Pertec Pit Stop Challenge didn't happen at Bathurst due to the rain, so it was held on Friday afternoon at the Gold Coast. No surprises, Brad Jones Racing took it out once again. It was very strange though. Normally in Bathurst, they have the teams running side by side, so you can watch them. This time it was just single runs and the time it was up on the jacks. So you didn't have that, kind of pushing the car in and then pushing the car out for the win. It just seemed a little bit strange, but the BJR boys once again, I don't know how they keep doing it, but they do, and it was actually very close, but they just keep doing it. The first race of the weekend, I suppose, Jake Kostecki, the first one to find the wall. Surprisingly, no one hit the wall on Friday. He took him till qualifying on Saturday before he hit the wall, so I suppose good job. Now on to race one. No safety cars. That was a big surprise. Probably could have helped because all the main drivers started the race. Obviously there was no co-drivers in this one, but typically at the Gold Coast it has been a 2-driver race in the past, and we typically see most of the co-drivers start the race, which does cause some issues. The only incident of the race, the only real kind of incident of the race was when Forward kind of caught the wall at the first turn and Golding had nowhere to go and ran up the back of him. They both kept going, but Forward did get a black flag because kind of the side of the car was hanging off. Golding just kept on going with the busted bumper bar. They decided that it wasn't worth coming into the pits to try and swap it over. They probably couldn't have anyway because there would have been a fair bit of damage in there. My other little comments from race one, because it was a pretty straightforward affair, really were Randall wasn't happy with Brodie giving him a bump when he was trying to pass him. Imagine if he was trying to race Shane Van Gisbergen if he was not happy with what Brodie was doing. Reynolds had that loose steering wheel, which they tightened up during the pit stops. That was something I'd never seen before, so that was a new one. A little bit, I'm not sure how he, went into everything with that kind of commitment when you could see him pulling on the steering wheel and it was moving around down the straight. I don't think if I would have had the same confidence as what he did. And Cam Waters, the save of the day. Spinning the car or clipping the wall coming out of that first chicane and then spinning around and just boot into it, off he goes. That was more special than Shane Van Gisbergen's winning that race for me. That was just Well done, Cam. Now, a couple of comments from qualifying on Sunday morning. Tim Slade caught the wall coming off the back straight, just clipped that inside wall. Not really anything special in that, but the spring flying out the side of the car, once again, without it being a massive accident, like the wheel was still on the car, I don't think I've ever seen a spring fall out like that, other than, say, the one that ended up copping, I think it was out of Barrichello's Brawn that Massa got in the head. That was a little bit strange. And then once again, Shane Van Gisbergen racing Jaime during qualifying. Why does he feel he needs to race people? At least he didn't punt off Jaime this time like he did Macca at Bathurst. But yes, the guys are slower than you, but you don't need to turn it into a race session. You can, you'd be able to see, especially like it was turn, whatever, I call it turn 2, after you go through the first chicane, the hairpin corner, it was around there, I think he was trying to race him, and you would have been able to pick that from early on. It's qualifying. Just if someone's in your way, slow down and go and put the thing on pole the next lap. Now for race 2, straight off the start, Davo and Shane Van Gisbergen going into the first into the chicane. Davo ended up, Shane wasn't going to give him any room, so Davo straight lined it and kept going. I can see why Shane's annoyed, but I can see why Davo did what he did. I'm kind of in a little bit of Shane's side of the thing here, because I also don't think that Davo should have had to give the position back. I'm just really torn on this one. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this one, because I'm really torn, because Shane didn't give him room, but also you are kind of shortcutting the circuit. So is that really fair? Pye then on, I think it was about lap 3, Pye stayed, there was a gentleman's agreement going into that back chicane that if you were the car on the left or the inside, I suppose, of the circuit, you had the right of way going into that chicane. Scott Pye, he was on the outside and he just blazed on with Brodie through there. I was surprised, I'm not sure if more came of that behind the scenes, but I was a little bit surprised that happened, and especially so early on in the race. Now, for that incident, there's going to be replays of this for years and years and years to come. There was a red flag. Golding hit the tyre barrier and then it shunted the tyres into the middle of the circuit, or shunted them out a bit. Randall, I was very surprised how little damage kind of was to Randall's car, considering that onboard, how hard he seemed to hit that inside wall. Anyway, then everyone just went ploughing into it. So the list of cars involved are James Golding, Thomas Randall, James Courtney, Macaulay Jones, Nick Percat, Lee Holdsworth, Brock Feeney, Todd Hazelwood. All of those cars, they were broken on the spot. Obviously, Courtney and Randall got going a little bit later on. They were about 15 laps down, I think it was, but also involved Andre Heimgartner, Jack Smith, Tim Slade, Will Brown and Jack LeBrock. They were all damaged in some way. They did get fixed and kept on going, but there was just carnage. Other than that Tasmania shunt a few years ago, I haven't seen anything like that for a long time. Once again, Brad Jones Racing and Tickford, a lot of repairing to do before the finale, and the Groves as well. Lee Holdsworth car, that was very damaged as well. At least it was a different one, so the cars will be pretty fresh when they hand them back to the Kellys after the season. I suppose the other little thing from the race was there was a safety car, obviously, for Randall stopping on just before the pits, right near the end of the race. Anton came in for fresh tyres. I'm surprised a couple of other people didn't try and do that. I suppose most people probably didn't really have much tyres left at that point, but that dropped him from 8th to 13th. I think he made it back up to 11th or 12th. Wasn't very impressive for putting fresh tyres on, but ultimately he was disqualified from the race for having too low a tyre pressure. So my thoughts on the weekend. First off, who can stop Shane Van Gisbergen? We are very likely to see 2 more wins in Adelaide. Why would you predict anything else? Feeney was very unimpressive this weekend, and he seems to have gone backwards a bit. I'm not sure if the whole Bathurst qualifying thing knocked his confidence, or he just didn't really seem to be there all weekend. Granted, he was a virgin in a supercar at this circuit, but he just he wasn't kind of there all weekend. Davison, the lead DJR car, faster in qualifying, faster in the races. Just he had the pace of that team all weekend, which is a little bit surprising when Anton kind of went on a tear towards the end of last year with his qualifying pace and that. Speaking of leading a team, Chaz Mostert just totally carrying that team once again. 2 podiums over the weekend. Percat, he was a little bit better, but still just kind of mid-pack. It didn't help that he got into that crash, but he was mid-pack before that. Chaz was a long way up in front and out of the way. Dave Reynolds back on the pace this weekend. 2nd and a 4th in the races, and of course that pole on Saturday from the top 10 shootout. I was pretty smug early on in the race on Saturday because my picks for the weekend were running 1, 2, 3 and 4. It obviously ended up 1, 2, 3 and 5th, I think, on the Saturday. Sunday wasn't quite as good. But Reynolds back on the pace. That's good. It's hard though because you don't know what's going to happen next year, but at least with a similar track in Adelaide, it'll be good to see him back in the fight next weekend, hopefully. Not next week, but the next time we go racing. James Golding got that car in the top 10 into the shootout on Sunday. Races were obviously a little bit different issue, but even Pither has moved forward. Instead of being back row kind of, that Jack Smith kind of battle, he's actually moved himself. I think he was around 15th to 18th kind of in qualifying, which is actually a big step up from where he has been most of the year. Tickford were looking a lot better over the weekend. Lots of crash damage, but at least they had 3 cars in the shootout on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Randall was a lot more pacey. Courtney I think he was 11th in qualifying on Sunday as well, so he only just missed out on the shootout. They were looking a lot better, but once again, Brad Jones Racing and Tickford, all the crash damage. I don't think it's just because they have more cars than anyone else. They just, seem to be getting involved in a lot of incidents. And finally, Frosty, great weekend from him, but just anonymous. Didn't really see him all weekend. Anonymous as well. Brown at Erebus and Mattstone Racing did. I don't recall really seeing them on TV other than kind of the crash stuff. Brody, though, from he was just right in that fight all weekend. Very impressive from him. So that's it for the race review. Something a little bit different this week. I would like your thoughts on the tyre bundle situation. Should we have them there? Should we not have them there? I can see from the incidents why we don't have them there. The drivers are saying, we've got the sensors in the road, things like that. But it is something for them to aim at on the circuit. When they clip them, you can pretty much judge as a fan that they have cut the circuit, and there is a bit of a penalty for cutting it. If it's just the sensor there, I'd prefer to see probably a bit more kind of tyre there so that you don't get those situations like where the guys are just blazing down through turn 1 or through that back chicane. I'd prefer to see the kind of tyres be made into a bit of a chicane there. So if you do overshoot it, then you have to actually slow down rather than, go through. I'd prefer to see some consequences. I quite liked back in the old IndyCar days where they had kind of gravel on the inside of those as well, and you would, get beached or slowed down a bit on those chicanes. I'm trying to think of a better solution than them. I can't come up with anything. I'd love to know if any of you guys have got a better solution. Maybe I can bring it up in a bit of a discussion next week if someone comes through with some ideas that I really like. But that's it for this week. Until next time, I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.